Hey YouTube, got another Williams System 3 through 6 MPU and driver on the test bench today. This is the same old driver I used in the other video, so I know that this was already working, but this is a System 4 MPU. I was just kind of in my project pile and I wasn't sure what the status of it was. When it came to me, again, this is just a project board from an operator. This IC was missing. I think that's IC 12. It's a 7408. A 74S08 works just fine. And then also there was one ROM socket missing. But I think this, being System 4, probably, just going by popularity, it probably came out of a flash, an early flash. So it would have had its yellow flipper ROMs and then nothing in IC14, and then these three would have been populated. So I don't have any System 4 games, but I do have one System 6 game. I have a Blackout, so I thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of test this one out and see if it was alive enough to keep around or put it back in the project pile. And to get this one going, I had to burn, since Blackout is System 6, I had to do some green flipper ROMs here, and I put these on EEPROMs for U17 and U20. And then instead of having more than one ROM, game ROM, the combined one at U14. So these are all three of these are 2716 EEPROMs. And then when I went to boot this up, since this is 3 through 6, it has our two LEDs here. And when I first booted this up, the very bottom LED was the only one that came on. And I got nothing on the Siegecraft display. It just said no signal. And then no matter what I did, I only had that one bottom one lit. So then started swapping around processors. Realized that this isn't a 6802. This is a 6800, which does not swap with the 6802. So I have an errant X on there because I thought this CPU wasn't running, but that's because I thought it was supposed to be a 6802 instead of a 6800. So that's actually a good CPU. So the next thing that I did is, since this bottom one was the only one lit, I think that points to your system ROMs down here. And then those kind of looked okay. And then looked at the LEDs again, and you can tell that these ones are not the factory LEDs. These are actually the factory LEDs that came out of here. One of them, the bottom one that was lighting, was good, obviously. So it has two legs, but the top one, upon closer inspection, was broken, and one of the legs was broken off. So I replaced both of those LEDs, and then both came on. And that kind of just means that everything's locked up, and you can't really trust those LEDs anyway on 3 through 6 because it needs everything to be running for those to be accurate. And if those aren't accurate because it's not running, you can't really decide on what that is. So with both of those lit, though, it does point to the 5101 RAM, and I went and socketed that and put a good one in there anyway, because that on the factory board was a AMI brand, which is notorious for failing. So I just went and swapped that out so that I would eliminate that from the process. And even after that, I still have both LEDs locked on. So then again, I kind of started probing around. I had a lot of activity on the CPU. It had the clock signal, it had the reset, it was going high, it had some data lines, but then I didn't have all the data lines on the ROMs going. So I thought something was getting hung up here. When I took these out, I was still using the factory sockets. They were the RN variety, so it wasn't the really bad Scambi or Auget ones. Those ones I've noticed in the past have been okay. Still good to change them, but they've been okay. So you can kind of tell in between that I had to do some jumpering and clean up some traces. But I think what had happened, remember that IC14 wasn't used because they were using these three spots. But there was damage on the traces from 17 to 14, and pretty much every pin on the left except for one goes to all three of these, and every pin on the right goes to all three of these. There's one pin, I think it's 5th from this side, doesn't go to each one. But I didn't have continuity on two traces between these two, so I just jumpered them, or made little trace jumpers, and then covered them with fingernail polish. But I think what happened is the previous tech at some time was probably trying to remove these, and when you're removing these, you always want to make sure, this is just the frame that came out, that when you're prying these chips up, that you're always staying on the frame and then prying up. I think what had happened based on the damage is their screwdriver got inside the opening, and when they were prying up, they're also actually prying down on the circuit board and gouging traces out. So I think that's what was the cause of these issues. I patched those up, and then once I booted it up again, I got it into audit mode. And when you first boot this up, I'll turn the power off here. We should get our LEDs just to blink twice. So power on. I guess it just blinked once, and then it's in audit mode. But since this is a system 4, there's no memory protector or anything on the coin door. But we had to hit this bottom one. It'll flash those LEDs 2 times again, and then it'll completely blank out the display. So now that we hit this one time, we can start using our coin door switches, which again is just this little tester up here. So hit the button once, and then this will start our displays. So auto up now, and then it'll scroll through there. I also had, in previous videos, I remember me talking about that slight lag on this little display tester, but I think that's only on this tester. I've never noticed it actually lag like that in a game. But I was missing on players 1 and 3. I was missing. It was only showing even numbers, so I had to replace my headers there. Probably will have to go around and replace all of these. But again, my kind of philosophy here is I just want to know if this thing works so I can keep it around and know that the parts on it are good. And if the day comes where I need it in a System 6, like for my blackout, or if I need it for a System 4 project that I pick up, I know that this is a good solid core that I could go around and, I would replace the capacitor up there. I go around and replace all the headers, and then I would also do the male side of the 40-pin connector too. But in my viewpoint, I just wanted it to be a known working factory board that if I needed to someday I could rebuild it. And then once we're in test diagnostics, the only goofy thing was getting it started with System 4. The rest, just keep hitting our button over here, and then we'll go into, so this will now be our lamp test. So all of those, notice what my feet look like too. And then solenoid test. So again, it'll just start jumping those all through. This ROM set does cycle the special solenoids as well, or we could trigger them with our special switches over there. And then this would be our switch test. So this would be switch 1, switch 2, and then I think the last one was 46 or 47. Oh, not that one. 45, 46 is the last one. And then I think at step 4 you'll get into all of your audits so that you can reset things. But then I don't have a battery or anything, so I'd have to just power off and flick it back on. And then we should have booted up there. And then the factory high score for blackout is 600,000. And that's just flickering on the first display. So it's in attract mode. And then you can see the lamp matrix is doing its thing. So another successful repair using the Siegecraft test suite.